peak, but he continued to fight later on. So for those of you out there who thinking about placing some money on Julio Chavez Jr., let's take some time to understand that he is 40 plus years old. He is fighting a very young, very motivated Jake Paul. Julio César Chávez Jr. has a professional boxing record of 54 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw. He has won 34 fights by knockout. So it's safe to say he's a knockout artist, and he loves to step on the gas pedal. Some of his greatest moments include winning the WBC middleweight title in 2011. He defeated Sebastian Zebic to claim his first world championship. When he defended his title against Marco Antonio Rubio in 2012 with a dominant performance that solidified his reign as champion. Victory over Andy Lee, a thrilling fight where Chavez Jr. stopped Lee in the 7th round to retain his title, and a late round surge against Sergio Martinez. Although he lost, his dramatic 12th round knockdown of Martinez remains one of the most memorable moments, and I think could have given him the fight because it definitely showed that he was able to hurt Martinez. That's another video in itself. A win over Jason Minda in 2020, a strong comeback fight after a series of setbacks. Julio César Chávez Jr. has faced several personal and professional battles throughout his career. I don't know if a lot of people know this. While he was once a WBC middleweight champion, his career had been marked by struggles with discipline and weight management, as well as substance abuse. So that's something to take into consideration. We all face battles. We all run into situations where we have to overcome it, especially in boxing. It's something that comes up regularly, but it's how you maintain and how you adjust. Having weight issues is a significant dilemma in this fight. Some of his biggest challenges include, as we said already, weight issues. He has repeatedly missed weight for fights, leading to criticism about his commitment to training. And if you look at some of his recent training videos, they don't look like he's training that hard. Substance abuse. Chavez has battled drug addiction, which has affected his performance and led to multiple suspensions. So there's been time he had to pee in a cup, and he lit the cup up. You know, in 2024, he was arrested in Las Vegas for illegal possession of weapons, including an assault rifle. So this is just last year, Chavez Jr. was riding around with an assault rifle. And that's something to take into consideration if you're going to the polls on FanDuel and you plan on putting your money down. Career setbacks. After losing his title with Sergio Martinez in 2012, he struggled to regain his former dominance, suffering losses to Canelo Alvarez, Daniel Jacobs, and Anderson Silva. These are this is a Hall of Fame lineup of people he took losses to. So let's consider the fact that Canelo Alvarez, as great as he has become, was one of the people to really put a stamp on him. And at that time, Canelo was on the rise, so this loss on his belt shouldn't have been a mark. But looking back at it now, hindsight is 2020. Taking a look at Jake Paul. Jake Paul has faced several personal and professional battles throughout his career. While he has built a successful boxing career and social media empire, he has also dealt with controversies, legal issues, and personal struggles. Some of his biggest struggles include legal troubles. In 2020, his home was raided by the FBI in connection with looting during protests in Arizona. No charges were filed, but the incident brought significant scrutiny. Substance abuse and sobriety. Paul has openly discussed his struggles with alcohol and his decision to go sober in 2023, saying it took a toll on his life and mental health. Boxing setbacks. After an undefeated start to his boxing career, he suffered his first loss to Tommy Fury in February 2023, which was a major blow to his reputation. Public controversies. He has been involved in multiple feuds with celebrities, fighters, and influencers, often making headlines for his outspoken and sometimes reckless behavior. Despite these challenges, Paul has continued to grow his boxing career, launching most valuable promotions and securing high-profile fights, including his upcoming bout against Julio César Chávez on June 28, 2025. Fight breakdown. Jake Paul has a professional boxing record of 11 wins and 1 loss. He has won 7 fights by knockout and has faced a mix of MMA fighters, boxers, and celebrities. So it's safe to say he doesn't really have that significant of a fight background. You know, I've already went against Paul, and I figured he could beat Nate Diaz. I was incorrect. I figured he can beat Tyron Woodley. I was incorrect. I figured Tyron Woodley could beat him and Nate Diaz could beat him. I also sadly thought Mike Tyson would win, but I feel like Mike Tyson did a number on his boxing glove, so that was something that we all can appreciate. Nate Robinson, a viral knockout victory. He was a former NBA player. Ben Askren defeated the former MMA fighter in the first round. He beat Tyron Woodley, won twice against the former UFC champion, including a brutal knockout in a rematch, which I personally feel like Tyron Woodley betted against himself and took a dive. Anderson Silva, a major win against the legendary MMA fighter, clean, smooth knockout. And Mike Tyson, a controversial victory over the 58-year-old former heavyweight champion. And his significant loss in 2023. His only professional loss coming by split decision against the undefeated British boxer. Paul is currently preparing for his June 28, 2025 fight against Julio César Chávez Jr. at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. Jake Paul's record, 11-1-7 with 7 KOs. Pretty good. The YouTuber turned boxer is coming off a controversial win. Mike Tyson and is looking to prove himself against a former world champion. Julio César Chávez, with his 54-6-1 and 34 KOs, a former WBC middleweight champion, is returning to the ring after nearly a year away, hoping to reclaim his reputation. Fighter and age. Let's take a moment to look at the tail of the tape here. Jake Paul, 28. Julio César Chávez, 39. Jake Paul, 6'1". Julio César Chávez, 6 foot. Reach, 76 inches for Jake Paul. Julio César Chávez, 73 inches. So we know Jake Paul has a significant reach advantage in this fight. Weight, 200 pounds for Jake Paul. For Julio César Chávez, 184. And that is when he is not in his best shape. So we're expecting that has to be taken into consideration. There is a major weight difference between these two fighters. One fighter is carrying almost 20 to 30 pounds over the other one. Muscle. Some key factors that come into play in this fight are going to be experience versus youth. Chávez Jr. has far more professional boxing experience than Jake Paul. But Paul is younger and has been more active in recent years. And those are questions you got to ask yourself. What would you rather have, experience or youth? And I guess it all depends on how much experience versus how much youth. If we have an old fighter, in the case of Mike Tyson, at 58 years old against 28, then in that case, I'm going to take the youth. When we're talking 39 against someone who's 28, then it comes back into the equation of, do you take the youth? Power and conditioning. Chávez Jr. has been praised for his raw power, well, Paul has showed solid conditioning in his fights. So if Chávez can show up, make weight, come clean, come prepared, he brings a mix of power and conditioning, even though he won't match Jake Paul in weight. But if Jake Paul matches him in conditioning, they can go the amount of rounds, whatever schedule. Motivation. Paul is eyeing a title shot if he wins, while Chávez Jr. is fighting to prove he still belongs at the top level. Sometime in boxing, 39 years old, they call you a dinosaur. They age you out so fast is something that can be said, and it's something that can prevent many people who may still be in the prime of their athletic lives to not be able to go box. It just eliminates you altogether. It's a sad thing. Expert predictions. Anderson Silva, who has fought both men, said Chávez Jr. is stronger, but Paul is more strategic. And if we could take that into consideration, that of the top 3 fighters that César Chávez Jr. has lost to, he feels that Paul is more strategic. Jake Paul knocked Anderson Silva the fuck out though, so this takes that into consideration as well. Chavez Jr. is stronger, but when he fought him a considerable amount of time ago, so I don't know how we weigh that either. Bob Arum, veteran promoter, dismissed the fight as a spectacle, saying Paul is unlikely to lose because he picks his opponents carefully. And I don't know how I feel about that from Bob Arum, who has had many fighters become wealthy and poor, who has many fighters who have sat on the shelf. And in this case, where we know that the betting numbers come out in great mass for Jake Paul fights, for Bob Arum to say that at a time like this, do you dismiss it like he dismissed it? Because if you place your money on Jake Paul thinking Jake Paul picked his fights carefully and he goes in there and gets completely dismantled, then you can't go to Bob Arum and get a refund. So with all this at hand and all this information, please make your picks carefully and wisely. Fight stakes. If Paul wins, he can be in line for a WBC cruiserweight title shot against Badu Jack. If Chavez Jr. wins, it could be a major comeback moment for him. Not to mention, probably a huge payday. Jake Paul fights bring out some of the biggest paydays in boxing, and that can always be something that he can use, especially when he's riding around with AK-47s like a YN in Las Vegas. So what it comes down to now is getting an understanding of what's necessary. I wish both these fighters a very safe night as they go on. And thank you for tuning in. Like I said, if you like the content, if you want more content, please subscribe to Dirty Mike Live. Everything's dirty around here. Give me a shot. And before we go, I want to take some time to really evaluate how this fight is even constructed and what may be in the future for Jake Paul that they're not mentioning. If Jake Paul wins this fight, or not even when he wins or loses this fight, as he goes forward, he has an opportunity to pick fights with Canelo Alvarez or with Gervonta Tank Davis. You know, there's been some rumors in the works that he's looking for those fights. He has those opportunities, but recently I heard that Canelo's camp stopped all negotiations. But that's something to keep in mind for the future. I don't understand how a 200-pound man will go fight a 130-pound man. I'm not understanding it. Maybe it's catch weight, maybe not. But either way, that's what we got going on. Thank you for tuning in to Dirty Mike Live. If you like what you heard here, like and subscribe for more. And if you have a boxer that you like me, or a fight that you like me to take evaluation of and get some predictions on, leave it in the comments.